Hey, welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, we're going to continue to talk about leveling up, and I'm going to be talking with Tyler Lubben, who is a digital nomad in the truest sense of the word. So he has his own Tableau consulting company, and he works all across the world, and he mainly works with clients in the US. So let's introduce Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, doing pretty good. I'm chilling in Mexico near the beach right now.
Wow. Yeah. So have you had any kind of adventures across Latin America recently?
I was in Costa Rica for a few weeks where I did some whitewater rafting and some canyoning. And then before that, I was in Honduras for 2 months doing my scuba dive master. So pretty much I was diving all day and working right afterwards.
Oh, wow. That is kind of the dream for a lot of people, I know. So yeah, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I was working as a data analyst full time, and I knew I always had the entrepreneur mindset. Always wanted to do it on my own. But at that point, I had a kid. I had a wife, a girlfriend, whatever she was at that moment, and I couldn't just jump. I still had bills to pay. So I started on Upwork, which was something else, I think Elance at the time. And I started doing just some contract work on nights. And being me, I was pretty lucky because I had 2 days remote and I was working 3 days in the office. So those 2 days remote, I was pretty much doing contract work. 3 days in office, I was cramming doing my corporate work. And then at night, I was doing contract work. So I started doing contract work until I got to the point where my contract work was pretty much the same as my salary without working all those hours. And then at that point, I was like, hey, I quit. I'm going to go independent. But if you want to keep me, then you can hire my company as a contractor. So they hired me as a contractor through my company, and I kept working with them as well as building my clientele.
Wow, that's a power move, man.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to be bold.
Well, and what's the shame about corporate America is it's almost like they punish you for being extremely efficient and they see you doing nothing or having downtime.
Yeah, no, I mean it's like I said, I had enough time where I got everything done, and I was one of the lead analysts for my department, so they didn't know, of course. When I got everything done and hit deadlines and was changing things, making recommendations, and doing everything I needed to do in those 3 days, where maybe taking 5 days for everyone else. And I mean, I just took advantage of being able to, like you said, be efficient.
Wow, that's awesome. So I've taken a dabble at Upwork and it hasn't really panned out for me. How did you go? Was it different back in those days? Because I'm seeing every single proposal on Upwork right now has like 25 to 50 people who have responded to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
how'd you go about that?
It was real different. The fee wasn't so bad. Their kind of review system wasn't so dumb, um, and it wasn't as many competition, especially being competition from the U.S. I mean, there have always been people, in India, Philippines on there, but having U.S. competition was really low. So, yeah, now I shy away from Upwork, but it was a lot easier. I did recently just apply for a job again on Upwork. But like I said, Upwork has this rating system that's not just your client rating. It's like, all right, client rating mixed with how long your average contract is, mixed with how active you are responding messages, or how active you are. So it's like all this stuff that is irrelevant to the client, they put in your rating and may lower your rating. So that's been bothering me a lot with Upwork, and then plus they take 20% off. But I have got a interview with a company recently on Upwork, even with not the greatest rating. But yeah, it's one of the things you just got to try, but it can't be something that you rely on, because I don't think it's that anymore. It's just maybe getting a side job here and there, wherever you can. But yeah, it's a lot harder now.
Yeah, I mean, I love the concept of it, and I think that as the gig economy, think of like people driving for Lyft. I think that is going to be kind of growing from, being a driver is of kind of a very basic, I don't mean to talk down on drivers, but it's a pretty basic skill set. I think the future is that, more and more there's going to be this gig economy where you can have a more advanced skill set, and then a platform like Upwork is a great, way for you to meet your clients. So I think that there's a future there. It just seems kind of awkward right now. And I know that they did implement a new feature where you can toggle on US based only versus worldwide. So I think that there was a big problem with, the people come from the Philippines taking on these projects for, 20% of what, a American contractor would do it, but then it turns out taking 2 to 3 times as long because of the language, and maybe there's a 16-hour time difference. So it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the trend of most corporates are starting to hire contractors instead of full employees, because most positions you don't really need full time. They're just kind of trying to find stuff for them to do, and then on top of that, they're not specialized. They're not the expert. They're just somebody at the company is doing it. So I think the trend of most, and it's also cheaper for them because they don't have to pay healthcare and Medicaid and all those taxes as well. So I think a lot of companies are going to start hiring specialists in certain fields, which are going to make the whole independent contractor thing a lot better. And then I also think on platforms like Upwork, where there's just like ad hoc remote work, I think they're going to start putting more corporate, like maybe I need someone for 3 months to come on site in my corporate office, or 6 months or a year. I think they're going to start putting some more stuff on there like that, which I've been seeing recently, instead of using sites like Indeed or Monster to hire contractors.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I'm really excited to kind of see the growth in that trajectory. Because it seems like, well, you and I are entrepreneurs in this space, which I would say, so you have full-time employment. If this is one on a spectrum, this would be on the far left. Then like consultants who string together consulting engagements as kind of in the middle, and then having your own agency on the far right.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that having an agency is a way that you can make a lot of money, but it comes with a lot of hidden hassles and effort that if you just strung together a series of contracts, you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, like I said, you're running a business at that point, which is way different than just being a contract employee. So, I mean, the contract employee thing, I mean, there is the benefit, you get a few months of full-time kind of work and full-time paychecks compared to, agencies. You could get paid 1 month, not the next month, or not the next 3 months. On top of, you got to do all this marketing and sales and all this other stuff. So yeah, it is a big difference between the two, but your sky is a lot higher with the agency compared to being paid hourly. And you put an hour in to make an hour's worth of money. So it's almost, it's just a next level to employee, with maybe a little more freedom compared to full freedom of an agency.
Awesome. Well, let's get back to your story. So you were telling us about, you had negotiated to the point where your corporate job basically hired your company. Did you pull the plug then and say, all right, US, I'm out of here, I'm going to Mexico?
No, it took me a while. It took me a few years to actually, sit down. And honestly, what my thought process was, being still young, I didn't come from a lot of money. So I was still, graduated from college, and I made the most out of my whole family. So, being young and then now being a business owner and making, 6 figures, I was pretty much balling out. I bought, BMWs, Mercedes, and boats and dirt bikes and multiple motorcycles. And at a certain point, I was sitting there and, still making money. I'm still being real productive, even, didn't use all this stuff most of the time. I was sitting there, thinking like, damn, I got this American Express bill I got to pay. I got this I got to pay. Like, I'm sitting here over here stressing about money. And I'm like, man, how am I making all this money? And I'm over here like about to pull my hair out over these bills. So at that point, I just kind of break down like, man, forget all this stuff. Like, I'm about to just live cheap. I'm about to, get rid of all this material. And my first step was like, all right, well, hey, let me move to somewhere cheaper. And I started looking around the U.S. and then I was just like, man, why am I staying in the U.S.? Like I could go anywhere. So then that's where the light kind of clicked on, because it didn't click because I had no family members that ever did it. I didn't know people that ever did it. So I was kind of, I was stuck in the whole American thing, an American mentality. But then after a while, I was just like, man, what am I doing here? Like I can go live in Mexico for, half the price and live like a king. So that's kind of what triggered it. It was bills made me think of a better way. So, but like I came up with a problem and I found a solution. I'm moving out the country.
So do you feel comfortable talking about like your cost of living there? Like, can you break down that difference? Cause were you in the Houston or Austin area?
I was in Atlanta right before I left.
Oh, okay. I thought you were in Texas the whole time.
No. Yeah, I moved from after college. I went to Nashville for a little bit and then went to Atlanta.
Yeah. So Atlanta's pretty expensive, right?
No, it's really not that bad, especially on the outskirts. It's still, the South. So you still got South, South cost of living. Of course you live in downtown Atlanta. Yes. But if you go 30 minutes, 45 minutes out, because I didn't need to go in the office, then it's pretty good.
Well, I'm comparing it to Greensboro. Greensboro is like number 6 on U.S. cities for affordability. My rent's like $500 a month, all inclusive.
No, that's not that cheap. It's but it's nothing like, it's a huge city, but it's nothing like the big city's cost of living.
Right. So what's the difference in cost there? I like, could you maybe break down your cost of rent versus, so what were you renting in Atlanta? Just like a 3-bedroom?
I had a 3-bedroom house in Atlanta, 45 minutes out for like $1,200. And then coming to Mexico, I had, first I did, and it matters, what your situation is. So, you get something as cheap as, $200 a month for a studio.
Oh, wow. That's so cheap.
Yeah. And that's, walking distance to the beach, all the way. If you want to go not walking distance to the beach and maybe have to buy a car, you can do, $400, $500 for a 3-bedroom house with a rooftop. I paid $1,000 for my house and I had 3 bedrooms, 3 stories, had a rooftop, 2 backyards, brand new tile everywhere, like super high ceilings. And it was like, probably the nicest house I ever seen. And I paid
like a rooftop.
So it was a 3rd story where I had my office, and then I had like a private rooftop where, I could barbecue or party or do whatever.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really nice. And I'm in the most expensive or top 2 expensive cities in Mexico, and that's still super cheap. If you go to other places in Mexico, you're looking at maybe $100, $200 for a 3-bedroom. So yeah,
that's insane.
It's crazy cheap compared to other places.
Right. So, that kind of leads us into the topic of geo arbitrage. So you're working with clients out of San Francisco and LA and, Atlanta, and you're living in a place that doesn't spend US dollars. It spends it's pesos, right?
Pesos. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And most of the time they don't know. They don't ask me. I don't tell them. It really doesn't matter. It's none of their business where I'm living. But they still have to pay me the money that they would pay a U.S. person because I'm still U.S. I still have all the benefits of coming from the U.S. I'm just spending my money elsewhere. So yeah, I'm still getting all the same money I would get living anywhere in the U.S. But I'm decided to live cheaper and live better and live near the beach.
Yeah, so you're basically, if you wanted to, you could be like in a semi-retired state where you're working like 5 hours a month or something ridiculous.
For sure. Yeah. You don't need to make a lot of money to live in there in these different places. And it's just, but for me, it's just, I can't settle with just being, average or basic. I'm constantly moving. So, I'm always trying to look and do better.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is just so fascinating. So how much farther does the money multiplier go? Is your money going 2 or 3 times as far?
I don't, man, I spend a lot of money, so I can't really tell you. But I will say, as far as rent goes, we're talking, it could be as much as 75% cheaper to 50% cheaper with the same level. Food is a lot more cheap, but like you get street tacos here for, I don't know, 20, 30 cents or something crazy, right? So I can eat, pretty well. I mean, most meals here, and we're talking like seafood, like really nice meals, around $10, $15, steaks, and that's expensive. So most like you go out, an average meal, maybe $5, $6, $7. So it's going out and spending money is cheap. Partying, if you want to go party, it's probably third, fourth of the cost as far as alcohol goes. And then another benefit is you get the cost of living, right, which is one cost savings, a huge one, on top of the US dollar to peso is really good right now. I mean, a few years ago, it was like 12 pesos for a dollar. Now it's like 18, 19. So you're getting a lot more pesos for your dollar, which is good. And then you also get benefits from taxes. Being that I'm not living in the US, I can claim something called the foreign earned income exclusion, where I don't have to pay income tax up to $104,000. So
Wow.
now I don't have income tax, which is huge, 20, 30% of your income. On top of now my company is incorporated in Wyoming, which they don't have state tax. So I don't have to pay state taxes. And then at the end, I just have to pay my self-employment, which is around 15%. So I'm saving, if you think you're making 120,000, you're saving maybe 20, 30,000 by just moving out the country. On top of your money going longer, and your money is more valuable. So there's a big savings when you think of the whole picture. And your lifestyle is better. Like I said, I'm living in the Caribbean, right down the street from the beach, where I have really good golf courses. I can go wakeboarding. I can go snorkeling in one of the top 10, or scuba diving, one of the top 10 places in the world. And I got all this savings. So it's I don't know why more people don't do it if they can.
Well, I mean, I'm excited right now. I feel like I want to go move to Mexico right this instant. I mean, that is incredible. Just hearing you talk about that. I think a lot of people are kind of intimidated because it seems like such a big jump. Was it for you?
Yeah, but like I said, I was going through a midlife crisis, so I didn't care. I just sold everything. It was like, forget it, I'm going. I'm seeing what's going to happen. But that's one of the things where you got to have the confidence and be able to, like, hey, I'm arriving in a new country and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, bold. So let's talk a little bit about the more tactical stuff. So I was talking with another analyst he's a senior analyst at Yeti, and he's a little bit older. I think he's in his mid to late 30s, and was talking about how a lot of millennials he sees in the corporate world who work remote, it actually hurts their career because they're essentially slacking off. How do you, I guess you're not even playing that game to where you're a consultant. So you have projects and either you do it or you don't. It's being an employee, you're kind of part of the infrastructure, and they want to get as much of an ROI off of you as they can, to where you're negotiating your value on the front end consulting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed thing. I mean, it depends on the person. I mean, as you see, I worked remote and I was working 3 days a week, but I was being efficient with those 3 days. As some people don't have self-control and self-discipline like me, and I get distracted and be like, hey, like I said, living in the Caribbean, hey, we're going diving, or we're going on the boat. You want to come? Like, all right, forget it. I'll do this later. Right. So it's one of those things where if you can have that self-control, then you can actually be more productive at home than you can in the office, because you save time on traveling back and forth for work, getting dressed, traffic, hour lunch break, where you maybe only need really 15 minutes to eat something real quick and cook in your house. And you can kind of work your hours you want to work and be happy and more efficient. Or you can be kind of like me and just like, I'm gonna go to the beach, or I'm gonna do this and maybe work different hours. So it really matters on the person. So you could be less, you could get more out of it. You could get less out of it. But I think a lot of companies are going to start going remote to save money on office spaces, because you really don't need it nowadays. And I think, being able to work remote is going to be a good thing. If you've done it for a certain amount of time, people are like, all right, well, he has a discipline because he ain't got fired yet, right? He's been he's been remote for a few years.
Right.
So let's hire him. And you'll find a lot of the startups are all virtual companies. Most startups now, at least IT, high tech startups, or have people all over the world working and doing video conferences from everywhere and making it work. So I definitely think it's a trend. I don't think it's gonna hurt you unless you hurt yourself, pretty much.
Yeah, I keep seeing articles that keep going back and forth on it of remote work's the worst thing to ever happen versus this is the ultimate freedom, working remotely, live your life, blah, 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 blah. It seems like I think I'm in agreement with you. I think that remote work is something that, from the perspective of these corporations, they don't have to have a cubicle for you. That's less office space, less of overhead investment.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like I said, it just depends on the person. I've talked to people that they don't want to work remote. They have the option. They're like, no, I need an office. I need a schedule. I need the interaction with people. I need to be in the meeting with everyone. And sometimes they admit it and they just go into the office and they don't go remote. Some people want to only be remote and hate talking to people, and people come to their desk and want to chit chat while they're in the middle of coding or something. And it just distracts them with all the meetings and all the coffee breaks and talks and meeting at the water hole type of thing, where they can't concentrate. All right. So it really depends on who you are.
Yeah, tactically speaking. So when I finished my MBA, I went directly into consulting, and it was, I'd say, 95% remote. I got really lonely because I was just at home all day long. So what I ended up doing was joining a co-working space. So then I ended up getting that feel of an office because I need that human interaction. I'm not going to walk up to some guy while he's coding and be like, hey, talk to me, give me your attention. But I do want to kind of build relationships and feel like I'm at a place with people. But when I was in Medellin, Colombia, there was this amazing co-working space called Selena, right in the heart of El Poblado. And it was just a bunch of other digital workers. And it actually felt almost the same as, my co-working space in Greensboro.
Yeah, no, co-working is definitely a good middle option. I can do the social thing with offices, but like I said, I get distracted easy, so I feel like I'm more productive at home. So I don't do co-working anymore. They have co-working here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico as well, and I was doing it for a little bit, but like I said, getting the dress, going there, and then having to go out to eat, and then people talking and getting distracting, and sometimes I distract myself because I maybe see somebody I want to talk to. For me, it doesn't work for me because I'm not as productive, but it is a good balance for people that need that interaction, because they can go in maybe a day or two a week, meet some people, talk, network, and another thing is they're not going to come up to you and ask you a question about, a meeting or this or that. If you got your headphones on, you're working, they're not going to come mess with you compared to, you're in corporate and somebody needs you. They're going to come to your desk and be like, hey, I need this report. Right. So it allows you to become more focused, but it's kind of the middle ground between corporate in the office and a remote 100%.
So to close this out, do you have any tactical tips on how someone can kind of pull that cord and go remote?
One is the first thing is of course you got to find either a remote job or you go remote. I've had friends that just ask to go remote because they maybe have a good standing in the company, they're everything's good, and they're like, hey, can I go remote? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. You could put your foot down and be like, hey, either you go remote or I'm gonna find something. That could work. Might give them an ultimatum. You could go on different websites and find jobs that are already remote, because a lot of, like I said, younger companies are all remote anyway. Or you can kind of start freelancing, consulting, and start your own thing. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a challenge, but I think if you really wanted to get remote, you could. You might have to take a pay cut, which if you think about it, the big picture things, you're still going to be making more money as far as savings go, because you have your cost of living adjustment and taxes and all that, which most people don't equate. So you could take a 20% cut, but you're saving 20% more than you were living in whatever country. So that could be another thing. But yeah, it's just doing what you need to do to get there. And then once you get there, it's a lot easier to keep it. But yeah, having that first step is going to be a little harder, and you got to kind of be bold and really kind of force the hand some.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking about this. I always love hearing about like all your digital nomadic adventures.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, and I know I don't, you know, that I've lived in Mexico for a few years, but more recently I sold everything in my house in Mexico again, and I have a storage in the U.S. where I just have my clothes, and I have my golf clothes, my scuba gear, my skis, like all my equipment, and I just travel full time. So I will go somewhere. Like I went to Costa Rica for a few weeks, and then I go back to the U.S. and I don't have any home in the U.S. any home anywhere. I go maybe change some clothes, maybe grab my scuba gear, take a flight, and I go somewhere else, and I just stay in hostels or Airbnbs or hotels mostly. So yeah, now I'm like fully remote, living nowhere, fully digital nomad. And then just having that freedom is really cool. Just being like, yeah, I don't like this city. I'm gonna leave in the morning, or I don't like this country. I'm taking a flight to Panama, right? Not having anything, just backpack and laptops and clothes, and just having that freedom. It feels great. So yeah, it's a really good feeling, and then once people feel it, it's really hard to go back. But it does take a jump.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem, man.